I'm Ted Berg for SNY.TV, and this is Know Your Enemy, presented by Pepsi Max. The Mets host Colorado at Citi Field beginning tonight, so today we're talking to Troy Renck, who covers the Rockies for the Denver Post. Troy, how are you?
Great.
Troy, let's talk about one of the upsides, and I know it's hard to find silver linings in this season for the Rockies, but despite their record, they've got a nice crop of young contributors and youngish guys. We know the big names, but some lesser-known guys as well, really adding to this team.
Well, especially from a position player standpoint, you got Jordan Pacheco at third base. While he's still learning how to play that position defensively because he's been a catcher in the minor leagues for the last few years, he has hit well. He's almost at 100 hits. Had a home run yesterday to help him beat the Marlins. Willeen Rosario will get some Rookie of the Year consideration just based on his power alone. He's projected to finish with 24, 25 home runs, and that's a big number for a catcher. And again, he's a work in progress defensively. And Josh Rutledge, who's played shortstop in Troy Tulowitzki's absence, it's been a pleasant surprise coming straight from Double-A, showing power that they didn't think he'd have at the big league level. He may not play these first few games here in New York because of a quad injury, but he's been a nice surprise for them offensively.
What do you imagine the plan is for Rutledge once Tulowitzki comes back? Will he shift over, or are they going to have to manage that somehow?
Yeah, he'll move over to second base. He played a lot of second base in Double-A Tulsa, so I don't think the transition would be as long as some might think, because he's been preparing for this the last couple of years, knowing in his mind that when he reached the big leagues, and if he's going to play every day, it was going to be at the second baseman.
The flip side of things for the Rockies has been their starting pitching all season long. They've got a 6.22 ERA, highest in the majors. How much of this is Coors Field, and how much of it is the personnel?
It's a combination of both. The field early in the season played a little crazy, closer to the non-humidor days or pre-humidor days. And the weather was 6 degrees hotter for early parts of the summer, which helps the ball carry. So you saw a lot more cheap home runs. You combine that with inexperienced and at times awful pitching, you get numbers that are historically bad. Right now the Rockies would be one of the top 5 worst ERAs in the history of baseball from a starting rotation standpoint. And that's what this 4-man rotation was born out of desperation, and frankly because they did not have 5 starters that could contribute. And they're trying to get their young guys, teach them to be more efficient. That's why the 75 pitch count, and plus they have to come back on a day short rest. But they've tried to really use this season almost as a experimental lab to try to address some long-term pitching issues to see if there's a different way to attack it. I think at times they're overthinking this, but because they were so bad, it's not a bad time to try some ideas you'd probably never try in any other season.
Well, let's talk about some of the pitchers in this series. Alex White, I know, was a big part of the Ubaldo Jimenez trade. What have you seen out of him so far?
Good sinker ball pitcher. Where he runs into trouble is men on base. Sometimes he gets on the side of the ball, he slings it, and leads him open to more base hits. But he's been able to keep the ball down much more consistently than last year. Last year he had a finger issue that affected his grip, and he was just the home run waiting to happen at times. This year he still deals with problems with runners in scoring position, but he's got a sinker that can get him out of trouble. His issue now is just becoming more efficient. Even with a sinker ball, he just gets into way too many deep counts.
And tomorrow's starter, Chacin, still very young, had a couple of nice seasons on his resume. He's been hurt most of the year and was ineffective before that. What do you expect out of him?
He's only won 3 of his last 21 starts. Again, he was their best pitcher into July last year. He says he wasn't hurt, but I do believe he had a little forearm issue that really affected him last year. He showed up at spring training with biceps soreness. He never really got through it. He was awful to start the season, 0-3, an ERA of around 7. They demoted him and then eventually put him on the DL, and it turns out he had this nerve pectoral injury that was kind of hard to diagnose because it was like a dead arm, but he couldn't really understand why, and he wasn't showing up on an MRI or anything. So with therapy and rest, they think they've solved it, and so I am anxious to see him tomorrow because he is a big part of the future going forward if they can get him straightened out again.
Jeff Francis we've all seen, but Thursday starter Tyler Chatwood, a guy who came over from the Angels for Chris Iannetta. What have you seen from him?
Chatwood throws gas. He throws 95. The problem is he's 5'11", so he doesn't get a lot of downhill angle. And so it's a weird deal that he's almost more effective pitching up in the zone to get almost a rise ball. But like basically all of these things come down to the same thing. When the young pitchers throw strikes, they're pretty good. When they don't, they get beat around because they don't have consistent outpitch.
Troy, thanks so much.
Take care.
Remember, for all the latest Mets coverage, be sure to check in at MetsBlog.com, TedQuarters.net, and SNY.TV.